All right, horrific big four. Moving on. Let's go ahead and dive into this cover for Anthrax's Among the Living. And I got to say, this has long been one of my favorite covers in the metal world. Love it a lot. There's just something so spooky about it. I mean, maybe people don't see the spookiness as much as I do, but you've got all these people looking down, like they're just looking down, and then you've got this preacher looking person just kind of in the middle among the living, so to speak, up in the air, looking up, looking around, hats off, got like a yellow glow around him. He's got this traditional kind of preacher looking outfit on. The hat looks like a preacher's hat, like one of those old preachers used to walk around and door to door preacher back in the day, so to speak. Back in the 1800s, they do stuff like that. Got like the bolero tie on, got a white shirt, black vest. Anthrax, his name is in yellow, which really pops. Among the Living pops in yellow. The people that are in the background, sort of towards the back of the cover, I guess you could say, towards the top of the cover, more or less, or back row of this audience, they're kind of got some browns and stuff in them. But as the images kind of go down towards the bottom, towards the front of this group, they start to change. You get some blues and stuff in there and other things that kind of draw your attention in. So it doesn't like scream horror like something from Carnal Savagery. I was just listening to them recently. But I've always thought this was another one of those covers that just kind of gives me some creepy vibes. Puts the ick in you, kind of gets the hackles up on your neck a little bit. There's just something about this preacher in the middle of this crowd waving that hand, hello, and just looking very spooky and demonic. That's why I look at this cover and give it a 4. On a scale of 1 to 6, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to Freddy's Nightmares, I think this is heading a little more towards Freddy's Nightmares. This has definitely got a little more creepiness to it. I had this on cassette when I was a teen back in the day, but I know walking through the video store, I guarantee you when he had the big LPs out and the CDs out for this, that grabbed my eye right off the bat. I guarantee you. So yeah, I'm giving this cover a 4 all day, all night. It really does, like I said, it's just got some creepy vibes to it. All right, and here's some interesting info about the cover from Wikipedia. The cover art is by illustrator and painter Don Brodegam, a cover artist since the early 70s, who worked on both Among the Living and Metallica's iconic Master of Puppets, which has already dropped. The painting of Among the Living has been the subject of discussion because it was long believed to depict the character Reverend Henry Kane, the antagonist from the film Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, while others thought it depicted Randall Flagg, the subject of the album's title track, and the antagonist from the Stephen King novel The Stand. Drummer Charlie Benante, who conceived the concept for the cover, explained, "It was just about how much evil there is amongst us. I wanted to show just the same type of person on the cover, the same type of people, and then the one person that was sticking out, kind of giving you a wave like, hi," which is what I said. In 1988, Brodegam was the cover artist for the following Anthrax album, State of Euphoria, which is also an awesome album cover. And not much horror in that cover, but it does have kind of a, eye-popping, sort of grab your attention kind of vibe. Probably more like a 2, State of Euphoria, but I like that album a lot too. Anthrax was up there with some of the big bands that I listened to. It's weird, in the 80s, I was like a pop metal kind of guy, the glam metal guy, and then I was also a thrash metal guy, but I was never in the middle. I was never in the middle with the Iron Maidens and the Priest until much later on in life, which is really strange. I went like glammy or heavy. So anyways, just a bit of history about me. Next up, though, how horrific is the title? Let's get into that. But before I get there, let me say thanks for tuning in the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's go ahead and rate that title, Among the Living, and I gave that title a 3. I think that title sits firmly in that 3 pocket because it's not exactly peaceful like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but it's not exactly Freddy's Nightmares. But you can kind of see it in either direction if you want to look at it. Depends how you take your mind and put into that title. like among the living. To me, it almost sounds zombie-like in a way, like it's just they're among the living, they're among us, somewhere, or maybe like a alien sci-fi kind of thing. We're among the living, like the V stuff from back in the day, the TV show V, with the lizard people, and I think they were lizard people. So yeah, that's kind of where I go with it. I kind of go with more like that kind of vibe, where they could just be a carbon copy of us among the living somewhere. So that's why I gave it a 3. You may not see it that way. You may, who knows? But the cover is a 4. The title is a 3. And moving on to album information from Apple, goes like this. On Among the Living, Anthrax worship speed and fury, but they also love stuffing eccentric ideas and sounds into their attack. The title track opens with a riff that sounds ripped from a horror flick, and Effelneckelfussen, NFL, Nice Fucking Life, features vocalist Joey Belladonna striking a dramatic balance between hardcore bark and neo-Halford operatics, and that would be Rob Halford from Judas Priest they're mentioning. Then there's Medley, ADI, Horror of It All, and all of its delirious prog changes. Far beyond thrash, Anthrax's quirkiness played a central role in the development of alternative metal. So in that little blurb, kind of validates a couple things I'm doing on this channel. They mention horror, which I'm doing horror movies and diving into the horror and heavy metal. And he mentioned prog, which I've done a little prog already. And I'd like to do a little prog in the future, because I do believe prog was a big influence on this metal genre. So there you go. Some validation backed up in the Apple album information thing. As I knocked my microphone, you probably just heard a pop. My hands get all crazy sometimes. I can't help it. I'm half Italian and I talk with my hands. That's just what I am. All right, he goes on to say on Wikipedia, Among the Living is the third studio album by Anthrax, released March 16th, 1987. Man, I was very much a teen at this point in time, deep into my teen years. It was released by Megaforce Records and Island Records in the rest of the world. So Megaforce got it in the U.S., Island Records in the rest of the world. The album is dedicated to Cliff Burton of Metallica, who died in a bus accident 6 months before its release while Metallica were on tour with Anthrax as the opening act. So there you go. And I've covered Metallica already. So go check that out once you're done. I think I might have mentioned that already. All right, moving on to personnel. Anthrax, Joey Belladonna lead vocals, Dan Spitz lead guitar, backing vocals, acoustic guitar and ADI, Scott Ian rhythm guitar, backing vocals, Frank Bello on bass and backing vocals, and Charlie Benante on drums. Singles. There were 2 singles from Among the Living. I Am the Law, personal favorite. I've always loved I Am the Law. February 1987, and Indians, June 1987. This is probably the song that put me on to Anthrax, because when that song came on, that video came on Headbangers Ball, you who know. I was like, who is this band? I got to find them, I got to listen to them, and I got to get into them. But Indians is up there with some of those big mega metal songs from back in the day. All right, track listing goes like this. Among the Living, Caught in a Mosh. Caught in a Mosh. I Am the Law, Effelneckelfussen, NFL, Nice Fucking Life, A Skeleton in the Closet, Indians, One World, ADI, Horror of It All. And anything else? My script is that. Okay, yeah, 9, Imitation of Life. When I do these scripts on my Google Docs, sometimes they don't match stuff up, so I didn't see that. I was like, what? I know there's another song on here. Imitation of Life. And this is the point in time in the episode where I rate the songs. And folks, there's not a lot of horror in these songs. There is one big horrific song in this one that I write in my notes. I did. Among the Living, and that's about Stephen King's The Stand. So bonus points for that. So that's what helped bump this the songs up to a 2 on this scale. It was a very low score before this. And I looked at that and was like, you know what? You're diving into Stephen King. You're diving into The Stand. I'm going to give you a point for that. So I bumped it up to a 2 for that. But looking through these songs, there is nothing horrific at all about them. I mean, A Skeleton in the Closet sounds very scary, but it's not. It's just about the demons we keep in the closet that we try to keep away from the world. So anyways, ADI Horvidal, I need to dive into the lyrics a little deeper on that. I haven't dived in. I know that song really well, but I don't know. That one may have helped bump it a little bit too. I'm not sure about that. I can't remember. But I know Among the Living was definitely the standout. Now I'm going to do a spooky song deep dive on Among the Living eventually. All right, so this is the point in time where I stop rambling. I toss all those numbers into a big, boiling, gooey, ooey pot, pull it out, check the number on my hand, and that number is a 3. So how horrific is Among the Living by Anthrax, the mighty Anthrax, one of the big 4? How horrific is this album? It is a 3. So it's somewhere in the middle. Again, it's somewhere in that 3 pocket. I think it's not exactly Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but it's not exactly Freddy's Nightmares. It's got enough of both. I guess enough of the non-horror and enough of the horror. So that's why I think it gets a 3. And it's also not horror enough to land in the horrific top 5, but it's now second in the horrific big 4. Ain't nobody beating Slayer. Slayer's Helloweights 5.9. Anthrax Among the Living at number 3. And Metallica, the mighty Metallica, on the bottom, one of the few times they're on the bottom. Master of Puppets, a 2.4. All right, next up, Megadeth, Rust in Peace. And we all know it ain't beating Slayer, but will it land in number 2? Tune in to find out when that one drops. And let me drop anchor here and close out the episode. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tap the follow button. Ooh, I'm going to just drop the spiel right here and say, wherever you are, just when you're done with this episode, when it stops playing, take a moment and figure out what you can do to champion this podcast and help it to grow and to show and to keep reaching more people. YouTube is struggling, so we know what to do on YouTube, but wherever podcast platform you're on, just figure out what you can do to make this thing grow a little more so I can keep doing this and keep sharing this with you because I certainly love doing it. I certainly love doing it and certainly enjoy doing it, and I hope you enjoy it as well. All right, that's about it. Take care. Thanks for listening. Be good. Go crank some Anthrax today and crank it as loud as you can and make sure everybody around you hears this awesome, awesome album. Be good.